Welcome, everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer. I am the host of Own Your Wellness, and I'm happy to be here. It almost did not happen. It's the first time my internet has been wonky in the last 2 years. It's just one of those things. Was like, we're going to make this work. And it was on our side. We finally were able to get through on my end anyway. But life is good. So anyway, I was thinking as everything was playing, I was thinking about how my last week has been, and my car died. And, I was thinking, why did this happen? And since I'm an independent contractor, it's not like I can get a loan to get a new one. So what am I going to do? And all these things. And it really made me think about how sometimes things happen in your life that you don't really want to happen, and they're not good for you, that you don't think they're going to be good for you. But then it ends up being like, if this hadn't happened, then this would have happened. And it always ends up being a setup for something absolutely amazing, even though it's really negative at the time. So that makes me think about my new guest, because she's had some things happen to her, but she has managed to turn it around and make lemonade out of those lemons. So without further ado, let me introduce today's guest, Danielle Matthews. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
I am so glad. I was like, oh my gosh.
It was busy there for a minute.
I'm like, I did all my tricks. I'm like, I don't know. Woo, at least it was on my end, though, because then I can't blame anybody else. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to learn more about you. So I'd love for you to share a bit about yourself and your own wellness journey.
Yeah, absolutely. My journey of wellness really happened at the age of 23. 10 years ago, I was hit by a drunk driver, and, I lost my health completely. And it's one of those things in your 20s, you're not really prepared thinking about health. You're vibrant, you're living life. And in a matter of moments, because this guy decided to get in his car and drink, he passed out. He came across the dotted line and he hit my car head on. And I'm incredibly grateful because I could walk away from the accident. I physically looked fine, but I mentally was not okay. And in the weeks and months and years to come, it was very clear that something was very wrong with my brain. I wasn't able to focus. I could not handle light. I couldn't handle noise. To the point where, like, just natural light, it felt like somebody was like shining a flashlight directly in my eye. You know how intense that feeling is? That was it for any sort of light and noise. And I had severe migraines, pounding that was just relentless. And I ended up having to stop working because I couldn't focus, and was in bed most hours of the day. My mom, thank goodness, I moved back in with my parents, and she was able to kind of take me to different appointments. And it was an interesting time because I grew up, my grandfather was a doctor. And my mom was in, I would say, like the alternative wellness space. She ran a yoga studio. Okay. So I had both worlds very present in my life. And I tried Western medicine. I went to top neurologists, and they didn't have answers for me. They basically said, you have what's called a mild TBI, a mild traumatic brain injury. And I thought, that is an oxymoron. There is nothing mild about this situation, but on the scale of brain injury, I didn't have a bleed. I wasn't unconscious, wasn't in a coma, didn't have to relearn how to, speak or walk. So for them, it was mild. But my life had stopped. And I sought out alternative things. I did hyperbaric oxygen treatments. I did neurobiofeedback. I opened into the world of supplementation. I tried a lot of things. But a year out from my accident, I went back to my neurologist, and he said, honestly, Danielle, with this type of injury, your body's done the healing it will do. And he said to me, and I'll never forget the words, he said, this is just your new normal, and you need to adjust your life around your symptoms. And I remember in that moment, thank goodness, must have been my higher self saying, you're fired. I had verbalized it, but it was within me. And I thought, no way. I'm at 24 at that time. And I said, I will overcome this, and I will figure out something to get my health back. And that's really what opened up the whole next chapter of my life. And first, it was mastering my own mind, because I was having panic attacks. I had severe anxiety, depression. If you can imagine going from living my life, doing what I wanted to do. I was teaching 6th grade math. I did Teach for America out in Denver, Colorado. I was snowboarding on the weekends. It was everything, that I had wanted. And then in a moment's time, I had none of that. And my future was so completely unknown. it really forced me into learning what's truly important in life and learning more about myself. And I'll tell you what, that opened up so much for me. And that journey has actually led to me, turning around and helping so many other people on their path, because we all run into challenges. We all hit obstacles. Mine was just super intense and very in my face.
No hiding.
And it's incredible what I was able to do just emotionally to get myself in a place of peace with it, which I can get into all of that. But once I got into this place of peace, what was incredible to me was I tapped into the laws of the universe that I didn't even know existed, which was when you hold a higher vibration, you attract in what you need. And all of a sudden I attracted in the answer, an incredible breakthrough technology that allowed my body to repair. And I have since had a full recovery. And so it's just one of these things that I look back and, like you were saying, you never know why things happen. You can connect the dots moving backwards.
Backwards.
Why? But, it's put me in a position now, fast forward 8 years. I have been able to touch the lives of thousands of people globally by sharing my story and helping them with the same health technology to help them get their lives back, and I've helped people with their mindsets to overcome and become more. And so it's such a blessing. I have to pinch myself sometimes and go, man, is this really my life? Is this what I'm blessed to do? And I express gratitude to that man. I have no idea what happened to him, but the fact that he made that choice and it put my life on this track has been such a positive thing for thousands of people. And it's like, who would have thought what you would have perceived as a negative situation could, open up to so much beauty?
Exactly. And, I've noticed that too with a lot of things in my past that I really did not enjoy when they were happening. I mean, serious things. And, looking back, it's like, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here now. And if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have met, fill in the blank, all these things that, I would never want to give up. So it's like, okay, I didn't like that, but looking back, I'm okay that it happened because look what happened now. So,
right.
Because, I like that. It's like, I always like to think of those things that are negative as just a setup for something else.
Yep.
Yeah. Cause it makes it easier too. I mean, like you said, if you put yourself in a higher vibration, then you're going to attract different things. So it's like what you focus on expands, which is the law of the universe. And if you're only focused on the negative, what do you expect to see? It's all still there. Everything's been there, but what your brain picks out is going to be negative. So, so I'm curious how you started on that path, because I know that is part of the battle, is even being open to trying something and realizing, hey, that's not my answer. I know that's what the doctor said, but you're fired.
Exactly. And I think so many times people, they take something in the external world, right? I think about life with this equation, super simple equation: external world plus your internal response equals your reality. And so you think about that, and so many, simple example, right? An alcoholic father, you got 2 sons, and one of them ends up, living life, never touches a drop of alcohol. The other ends up an alcoholic. You ask both of them, why are you the way you are? And both of them say, well, look at my father and how I grew up. Right? But they had a completely different internal response. And so their reality is vastly different, right? My father was that way, I'll never be that way. Well, my father was that way, so of course I'm that way. And so it was interesting for me, that wake up call came because I watched a movie called The Crash Reel. And it was about a snowboarder named Kevin Pierce, and he had a traumatic brain injury while he was getting ready for the Olympics. And now I was a huge snowboarder. I competed in college. And so it paralleled my life in a lot of ways. I could really resonate with him. They never stopped filming. So they filmed his recovery, his whole journey. And then he founded something called Love Your Brain. And he was starting to bring awareness and shed light on brain injury. And now this was all happening at the same time that, my brain injury was happening. And I thought, look at this guy who had it all. Getting paid to snowboard, travel the world, competing with Shaun White, like the top of this. And here he's found purpose again. He's found passion again. He's making an impact again. And I thought, okay, here I am miserable with my life, having panic attacks. And I thought being angry and frustrated is literally just making me sick. It's not helping. And I thought, I cannot change the accident. I cannot change the injury. The only thing I literally can change is my response to it. And so I thought about it like this. To me, like life is a game. And I thought, all right, new rules on the game, here we are. So within these rules, within these limitations that have been put on me, what can I do? How can I find happiness? And I mean, as trite as it sounds, but it's like the power of it. I started a gratitude journal. And every night I refuse to go to bed without writing one thing down. And I will tell you, sometimes I stared at that blank page, like there is nothing, like I'm grateful for nothing. And then slowly it would come. Well, the strawberries in my salad were super nice today. They made me smile, right? A friend called me out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden I started to rewire my brain where when I looked back at my day, all I could think about were the incredible things, like, how beautiful it was that I could sit in a dark room with my grandparents and talk to them about their past and gain their wisdom. And like, I wouldn't have had the time for that if I was working. And they didn't mind sitting in the dark, which I needed to sit in the dark. And so all these things started to shift. And my mom actually started to share with me a practice of meditation called Yoga Nidra, which is a guided meditation. You have to do it laying down. You have to do it kind of in a dark, silent room, which with a brain injury I could do. And
I was thinking that right up your alley.
The activity that I can do. Perfect. And the guidance, I mean, the yogis were incredible, right? They spent thousands of years asking the question, if there were a single truth that, if known, solves everything in life, what would that truth be? And they found it, right? And the truth is that you are more than your thoughts. And that's a whole thing I could get into. But then they said, well, we need to create a tool for people to access this. And so they created Yoga Nidra as this tool. So people could get beyond the illusion, right? Beyond thinking that, oh, my thoughts are me, and realizing, no, I'm the observer behind them. I'm there before, during, and after every thought, every emotion, everything. And so they designed Yoga Nidra to get you to that space beyond your thoughts so you can disidentify a little bit, kind of watch it dispassionately like a movie, And then what I love about this type of meditation is they insert an intention. And they say, your mind is like ice. The conscious mind is so hard to shift. We're so programmed, and sometimes we're running on a program, we don't even realize it. But when you get into the meditative state, it's like it melts. And all of a sudden, it's like this liquid. And so like any liquid, it conforms to the glass you put it in. And you can insert an intention. I almost think about it like that movie Leonardo DiCaprio's in, Inception.
I watched that last night. That is so funny.
Oh, that is really funny. Okay. So I wondered why that came into my mind. I'm like, so right, you plant this seed. And then all of a sudden it hardens right in. And so when you're consciously awake, then you've rooted that in there. And so I use the intention, I am at peace amidst the chaos. And I also use the intention, I am open and patient. And so it just literally allowed me to find peace amidst what was a chaotic time in my life. I didn't know what my future was going to be. I had no answers. There was nothing really. But I had to be present. I had to be open to what it might be. I had to be, just comfortable with the process. And that's what taught me that. And it was that emotional state that literally changed my external world. Like all of a sudden my parents could relax and they thought, okay, she's going to be okay. Like if she's able to find happiness in this situation, like she's going to be fine. And so, that energy then rippled out. Right. And so it's interesting because, it's like, I know all of this now. I didn't know it then. And this is the stuff that I love to teach people because I'm like, I lived through it without realizing, that fear is such a low vibration, fear and anger. And when you're in that space and you allow those thoughts to be there, they pull in this energy and you will be in this like spiral, like you're stuck in a vortex that just keeps going down. When you can pull out of that, you can create the same vortex of things going up. And so without knowing what I was doing, I mean, that's what I created. All of a sudden, I was happy. I mean, genuinely, actually happy with my life and in a space of gratitude all the time. And you'd think, how could I be? I was reading books. I was, cooking. Like I was just doing the things that I could do with the limitations of my brain. And that's what got me there. And as I was in that space, once I got happy, it was all of a sudden like, okay, this has opened up another part of me. And I started to observe my thoughts more. I started to see when I was getting triggered. I started to like see those patterns and programs. And it was like this beautiful opportunity to go, okay, well, let's deal with that one. It's not certain. Let's deal with that one. And so I'll tell you, I was seeing a therapist at the time too, and he was like, Danielle, you're getting a PhD in life. Like the emotional intelligence that you're gaining through all of this is incredible. Because I was having a hard time watching my friends. They were, I mean, no joke. Like I graduated from University of Virginia. It's one of our top public schools. And so the network of friends I made there, at this point, we're in our mid-20s. They were going on to Harvard, Cornell. They were getting PhDs. They were getting their, some of them were in medical school. It was like all of them, not a one didn't. Like, and I'm sitting there kind of on the sidelines, unable to do any of that and wondering, could I ever even focus again to get through, a course? I don't know that I ever be able to. And I'll never forget him saying that, like, Danielle, you're not going to get a piece of paper at the end of this, but this is going to serve you in every relationship, every dynamic, in life to come.
It's very true. And that's the thing that when something really negative happens like that, or because I used to work in addiction recovery. So, there's a saying in AA that used to drive me bananas when I hear it. And it was that people saying, I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'm like, what are you grateful about? You're an alcoholic. But the thing that dawned on me years later was they're grateful because they had their stuff thrown in their face and they had to grow up and face everything and learn how to live life on life's terms. It's like, oh, okay, now I understand. Same idea though. I mean, it's literally, you couldn't escape it. So it's like, and you chose to rise to the occasion as opposed to taking that doctor's word for it and just being like that for the rest of your life. So
can you imagine? Like, and what gets me is how many other people have been told something like that and they accepted it as truth. And that's where I say, like, that equation is everything, because the external world, I could have very easily said, oh my gosh, this is my life. What's it going to look like? I'm always going to live at home. I'm never going to be able to earn an income again. Woe is me. And you're in a place of victimhood. And it was like something within me. And this is what I want people to understand for themselves, because for you, maybe it's not an accident, right? Maybe it's a relationship that didn't work out. You've lost a job. You've lost a loved one. Whatever it might be. I mean, COVID, good Lord, that shot up so much stuff in people, right? And I rode through that like, oh, this is a cakewalk.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, hey.
Like, okay, life happens. We're going to get on the other side of this. Don't worry, guys. But it's so interesting because it reveals things in you. And this is something I get into in my book, because I've watched this now, like being on the sidelines of life. It was just this beautiful opportunity to observe. So I got to observe my own thoughts, right? And reactions I was having, but I also got to observe everybody else, and not from a space of judgment, but like from complete curiosity of like, how are we as humans getting through this world? And like, why are conflicts happening? It's like, I could almost see an engagement that would lead to, a frustration, anger. And it's like, they were arguing about something that wasn't even there. It's like, this person came into the conversation charged about something else. And this one got triggered, right? And it's like, the trigger is the teacher. That's what I came to. And I went, holy cow, every single interaction in life is a teaching moment. Like, we are here to learn. Life is teaching us every single day. And until we realize the lesson we're supposed to be learning, it gets louder and louder and louder until you can't stop, from having to go, okay, like, mercy, like, what is going on, right? And it's so interesting because it's the same, like, I had a teacher explain to me one time, she said, Danielle, it's like, it's like a garden, okay? And there are these seeds underneath. And unless the right weather pattern comes through, like, that seed never has the chance to grow. And for us, it's like these, this is a teaching from yoga. They call them these karmic seeds. Like, they're in us. Their belief is it's from past lives and different things. And they're lodged in here. Maybe it's from this lifetime, whatever you want to believe. But just the concept of it, I felt was such a beautiful painting of the picture. And so what she said was, look, in life, your family, friends, business partners, maybe politics, etc. But she said groups of souls choose to travel together to create the correct weather patterns so that what is unresolved within you gets triggered. because until it gets seen, revealed, until it blooms, you didn't know it was in there. And as we talked about at the beginning, if your frequency is low, you can't get to the next level. You can't draw in all the beautiful things that you deserve. You have to get rid of this stuff that's weighing you down. And the thing is, we as individuals can't figure it out on our own. Okay. You have to have it revealed to you through some sort of external environmental thing, you know? And a car accident, right? And so all of a sudden I was stuck with myself in such a real way. I mean, try spending day after day with yourself in a dark room. Like I couldn't do anything else except be with my own mind, you know? So like I got to know myself really well. And I started to realize these things. I started to see it. And when my teacher explained it in that way, I thought, wow, what a beautiful thing. You know, so that person that is ticking you off at the office, that family member that's constantly like this with you, you know, the relationship that blew up, they were like your best teacher, you know? And it's like, well, what lesson was I supposed to learn? Is it this feeling of I'm never heard? Is it this feeling of I'm not good enough? Is this feeling of abandonment? Is this just this fear that you have, you know, that nothing ever works out? Like, what is it? Because that is dictated. It's like, it's part of that program, you know? It's like, it was a moment to learn it, to get rid of it. So I think, I think now I look at life with, you know, with that, I literally like picture as if I have sunglasses on and I'm going through the day. And when I get triggered by something, I'm like, well, what sunglasses am I wearing? Cause like, I didn't need to respond like that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the same when I'm like interacting with someone, because I talk to people all day long as part of my work. And it's like, I can see things get triggered in people and I'm not personally, I'm like, it's not me. You know? It's something from their past that just like, ding, like I'm just the character now bringing it to the forefront. So it's, you know, that perspective, I think that's why like the gratitude, right? Like I wouldn't have gained that perspective, maybe decades of life to come perhaps, but I just think I just had such an opportunity to see it. And like other people realize it. I mean, it sets you free. It gives you your power back, you know?
Yeah. I had this spiritual mentor. That's how I would describe him. And he used to say that those triggers, we should always thank them and bless them, because that's an opportunity. Because, you know, as I start, like I'm speaking about me, is when I started looking at my own thoughts and realizing, okay, you know, even if I have, you know, it's justified anger, for example, is it even serving me? No, it's really not serving me, even if it's justified. But what I'm getting at though, is that, you know, I started looking at, and then I started like getting mad at myself, because it's funny how the brain works, because something would still trigger me. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why is that still triggering me? And he's like, no, this is a blessing. It's just showing you that you know, you've got more to look at. That's all. And you should be grateful. It's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. And like, what's so cool is I literally think it's the most empowering thing, because if you're at mercy to the external world, to people, whatever, or to even your own emotions, right? Like how many people get dragged all over the place, just like that trigger. And then they're like, all of a sudden they're crying, they're screaming. And it's like, time out, like create some space, realize that's not you, like, you know, realize you can create a choice. And here is like, this is where that equation I shared, like you can flip it. And this is what I learned that like changed everything. And I'm like, holy cow. But you have to go through this process. Like you have to realize, you know, you're more than your thoughts. Realize you have a choice about how you're interacting and reacting. Realize that's what's actually creating your reality, right? You are. And then when you say, okay, if I can master my own mind, if I can get control of my thoughts, I can direct them. And I can consciously think about, well, what is it that I do want? How is it that I want to be in life? You know, like I said before, I use the concept like I am open and patient. And I thought you could go through life and be open and patient. Like I can't think of a better way to be. You know? And so I insert that, and all of a sudden my external world started to reflect that, because guys, you are so powerful. And I have become obsessed. I call myself a human potential enthusiast, because it's like the potential we each have to create the life that we want by design is sitting there for the taking. But until you realize that you have a choice and you stop being at mercy to the external world and you go, no, I'm going to bring it inside. I'm going to get clarity of what I want. I'm going to say no to all the things that aren't serving me at that level, that aren't things because like the universe tests you, like, is this what you
Oh, yeah.
want? Not quite. Is this,
Oh, yeah.
you done with this one? Yep, we've moved past that. Thanks for the final test. And it's like, once you do that, it's incredible what starts to just flow in, you know? It was once I got there, that's when the redox technology came into my world. And all of a sudden here is a cellular solution that basically helps your system where you're damaged repair. And I thought, it's too good to be true. I mean, I'll never forget my initial reaction when the answer, arrived on a silver platter. And I was like, my mind doubted it. Can't be, no way, and literally months went by before I was open to going, okay, well, what if this is the thing I was looking for? I expected it to come in a very different fashion. I expected to wake up one day and be healed, right? I didn't know I was going to need something to support that. And, all of a sudden, then when I let it in, my world changed, right? And so I just like, if people could realize the power they have, the world we would live in would be very different, and it would be full of empowered people that are happy and creating life like in the vision of their own mind, because each of us has our own vision, right? Like we're each our own unique instrument. We're not all supposed to sound the same. We're not all supposed to, play the same music. It's supposed to sound like you.
I love that. On that note, we do need to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about redox because you've touched on it extremely briefly, but I think that's such a huge, important part of your story that we definitely want to touch on that. So we're going to be back in just a moment, okay? For those of you who are watching us live, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure. But as I mentioned, it's time for those commercials. So you know what? We'll be back in just a minute. Are you someone who is struggling to move forward because you suffered a loss? Maybe you're even finding it difficult to complete the most basic tasks. Are you looking for a way to start enjoying life again without feeling guilty or the resistance to do so? Spiritual life coach Sarah Stockham saw a need for people who haven't learned how to grieve without putting their entire lives on pause. And so she created a program that solves this issue called Choosing Life Right Now. This program is simple and you can do it on your own. If you are ready to learn how to feel your grief while still being able to smile, to honor the sacredness of what took place as a loss, and yet still continue to live with joy, and if you'd like to take care of your whole being with grace and love, then I'd like to invite you to experience her new program called Choosing Life Right Now. Sarah is currently offering her program for the promotional price of $77, but it won't stay at this price for long. To learn more, check out her website. The address is on the screen.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, I'm Julianne Meyer. You're watching On Your Wellness, and today's special guest is Danielle Matthews. Let's bring her back. Welcome back to the show. So I want to preface my first question, but say as a little toot to what you're about to talk about, because I use what you are about to talk about, and it works. Like, you don't have to have a traumatic brain injury for it to work. My boyfriend cut himself on the forehead, and that egg should have taken weeks to heal, and it was gone in, I think it was 3, maybe 4 days from putting on the gel. So anyway, enough about what I have to say. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So for those of you just jumping on, I shared at the beginning, I lost my health due to a car accident. So I was hit by a drunk driver and sustained an injury to my brain. After a year, I was told, new normal, nothing more we can do for you. Kept searching, kept looking for options. And here's how this came into my world. An acupuncturist that used to be a student of my mom's at her yoga studio, a yoga nidra student, all right, she reached out and said, I've started using a technology at my practice. And she said, it's like nothing I've ever seen in all my decades of work. And the way she described it, she said, look, this is going into each person and it's helping that body amplify the signal to where they have damage. And she said, your body is signaling all the time. They're called redox signaling molecules. And she said, when you get older, you start making less. And so that's why you don't repair as quickly. You know, things creep up, they become chronic. We go to the doctor because we have a disease name. And she said, every single one of my clients is getting benefit, all of them a different benefit. And so my mom, very excited, like, here's the missing link. Here's the thing we've been looking for, comes home. It's this beautiful blue bottle of ASEA. I don't know if you guys can see it. I've got one behind me over here. This is what she walks home with. She walks in the door with it, right? And I am a biologist. My degree is in biology. I went to University of Virginia. That's what I studied. And she walks in, Danielle, I've got the answer. I take that bottle, I look at it, and I don't know what your reaction was when you first learned about this stuff, but I went, Mom, it says that the ingredients are water and sodium chloride. I said, it's not water. And I mean, I had this moment of like, your friend's involved in a scam. Like, what's going on? Have you lost your mind? And you have a similar smile, I see.
Well, and I'm thinking it tastes like pool. It tastes like a pool.
What is this stuff? You know, and it was so funny. I have to laugh at myself because like the answer has arrived. It's sitting like silver platter, right? Like, ding, here you go, Danielle, all signs pointing. And I blew it off. I was like, Mom, no way that stuff's real. So my mom started drinking it. And my mom, she had bone on bone in her hands. And I don't know if you guys know anybody with joint stuff like that, but like she could not make a fist. The range of motion was so limited because of the inflammation, and she was in a ton of discomfort. And so she said, well, if you're not going to drink it, I will. And so Mom starts drinking this stuff. And 6 weeks later, she gets full range of motion in her hands.
Wow.
Yeah. That was my dad's response. Mine was, Mom, it's a placebo. I mean, the biologist in me was having such a hard time trying to connect the dots here because I hadn't learned about this stuff in school. So Dad starts using it. 10 days into my dad using it, a knee injury he had from 30 years prior started to feel better, wasn't having to wear his knee brace. And now my dad is a huge athlete, works out every day. And he's like, guys, I'm not tired. I'm not sore. I feel like I'm 30 again. He was in his mid-50s. He was doing more. I'm like watching him run further, row further. And I'm like, what's gotten into him? You know, like what's going on? Well, that prompted my dad, super analytical mind. He's like, okay, so what's the research on this stuff? You know? And this was at the beginning. And the company's called ASEA. And ASEA had started doing research with athletes. And they had done a study with mice. You know, they had said, okay, let's run the mice. Now run them to their exhaustion point. Now let's put them on 7 days on the ASEA. And then run them to exhaustion again and see, do they go further? Well, they went 29% further. Right? They're not going to run further for no reason. And my dad's like, yes, like that's how I feel. You know, he's like, so that's when they came back to me and they said, look, Danielle, it turns out that redox signaling is not something ASEA made up. Like this is a massive field of science. And what was explained to me was that it was too new. It wasn't in the textbooks when I was in school. And, you know, they said, look, here's the biggest thing. This cannot hurt you. You cannot contraindicate, because I was on a medication for all those migraines. Like, and I was most nervous, like, okay, well, what if something happens? Like, we're talking about my brain here, you know? And they said it won't contraindicate. The stuff's already in you. It's already interacting with your medicine. And they said, there's no toxicity, can't take too much of it. Like, just try it. You literally have nothing to lose here. And they made me promise 6 months. And so I did. I'm just always so honest with this. And I'm like, man, I was such a jerk. But I literally said to them, I think you're going to waste your money here. You know, like, it was kind of a pipe dream. But I started taking it. I drank 8 ounces a day. And nothing happened. Nothing happened. I'm telling them, you're wasting your money. What's going on? The 3rd month, the pounding in my head stopped for the first time in 2 years. And I started to be able to concentrate again. I had energy again. And I remember thinking, like, what is this stuff? And I was sitting at my cognitive therapist, who I saw her weekly. You know, we had a standing appointment. And she said, you know, Danielle, I have worked with your type of injury for 30 years. And she said, I've never witnessed someone have such a rapid recovery so far out from their initial trauma. She said, with your type of injury, it doesn't happen. And she's the one, and I'm quoting, she said, what the hell is that stuff you started drinking? And I remember sitting back and going, I thought it was salt water. I said, I literally have no idea. And she goes, all right, let's figure it out. And talk about like inflection points, right? We were talking earlier about how things happen in life. You connect the dots moving backwards and you go, wow, thank goodness that happened. All I got to say is thank goodness she asked me that question, because the biologist in me went, yeah, what's going on? He got on the phone with a member of their medical board, and he started to explain to us what this was. He was not, first of all, he was not surprised by my, like, I'm like, I had a miracle. And he's like, huh? How much were you drinking? How long did it take? And I'm like, who are you? You know? And so he goes on to explain this. And I sat back at the end of that call and I went, the potential of this is massive. This has the potential to go into every single human being, stimulate the call for repair where that person needs it. And I thought, it's safe. So like whatever someone's on, whatever they've been told, whatever, it's okay for them to use it. And I thought, this has been placed in my lap for a reason. And I started to tell people, like, I didn't know exactly what I was doing at first, but I started to say, this happened for me. Maybe it could happen for you. And then I started to see different people with a woman that had gotten bitten by a tick, you know, all these things that it's very similar stuff they deal with to what I dealt with. And a gentleman who had, you know, issues with blood clotting, a guy that had hit his head, like stuff that was similar to me at the beginning. And I started to see the same results. And I thought, okay, this is something that like life uniquely designed me to be in a position to educate here. Like I had been a teacher prior to my accident, you know, and knew biology. I could explain it to people. And that was, 2015. So now we're almost 8, holy cow, years, you know, later. And I've watched it touch the lives of hundreds. You know, there's not a challenge I haven't seen it touch. And I just think we're so blessed, like with where we're going, you know, it's like, we don't know what we don't know. Science doesn't know what it doesn't know, you know, and we're constantly able to just push the envelope. And it's like, to me, this is such an elegant answer, and it's so simple and it's so profound that I'm like, that blue bottle will be in everyone's house. Like, I didn't know it was in your house before I got on here, but I know that I know it will be in everyone's home. And so I'm like, of course it's in your house.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. There's also like different products that ASEA offers. I'm a little disappointed they took the scent out of the face wash, because I really love that scent.
I know. Their new skincare line, though, I started using it. That's how I saw somebody in the chat say, you look like you're still 25, Danielle. That's that stuff. Like,
exactly. It's true. Yeah. It works really well. So I just want to bring attention to the fact that we put up your email and your text message or phone number so that people can text message you directly if they have questions or are interested. So my question, I guess, for you is, you know, you mentioned that you were drinking 8 ounces of it a day. Is that something that you still continue to do, or does it start out like you load in the front load, and then, I mean, what does that look like? Or if something happens, then you take extra. I mean, what does it look like?
all of the above. So I think about it like these guys are like little construction workers, and we all have houses. They all have different issues, right? If I were to ask you what's going on here, it's probably different than mine. And so, everything's needing repair always. And the construction workers come in and they do the repair job. And that's what's happening in our systems right now. It's just that as we've gotten older, less guys are coming to the job site. And so more issues are popping up, less people there to fix it. And that's the predicament we're in with aging. And so with ASEA, with the redox, and they have a topical too, but you basically, when you drink it, it goes internal where you need it. The beautiful thing about the gel is you tell it where to go, whether that's damage on the skin or, stiffness or something. And the repair starts happening right where you put it. And so how much do you need? Well, it kind of depends on, how old are you, right? Because if you're older, you have less coming to the job site, so you might want more. And also how much damage is there, right? I was young, but I had a lot of damage. And so they said, okay, like if you look at the back of the bottle, it says 4 ounces a day. But the study that's on the back of the bottle was done at 8 ounces a day. And they found that with that study, it was turning on different genetic pathways that get flipped off because of stress and toxins and all that stuff we deal with. So it's like, well, if I want to be proactive against what I don't know, maybe what's going on, 8 ounces a day I call it the magic 8. Like 8 ounces a day seems to do it. So that's what I chose to do when I started. And I've just stayed on that because I feel good.
Why change it?
I lost my health once. Let's not go down that route again.
Besides, and I will say it's not overly expensive. But even if it were, let's just pretend for a second that it was like super expensive. How much do people pay for things like health insurance that they never use? I would rather spend my money on what I consider real health insurance, like not sick care.
Exactly. No, that's it. And when people say like they look at the price and they're, I remember a professor that I spoke to, he said, how in the world is it so cheap? And I said, you understand the value of what this is,
Exactly.
But it is that's how I look at it. I joke all the time. I'm like, well, ASEA is my health insurance. I haven't been to the doctor in 5+ years. Like, it's like, it's one of these things that it's helping my system find things before there's an issue. Who wouldn't want to be in that situation? Given all the stuff we've been through the last couple of years, it's like, okay, if I can proactively help my system detect issues, like one of the genes that it looks at is the gene that helps with the innate immune response, which is the gene that goes after, or the immune response that goes after viruses. And I thought, well, I can keep that one turned on. I can keep my body's like initial defense system strong. Like that just sounds like a smart scenario.
Exactly. Plus, if anybody, if you talk to Danielle about this, she'll probably end up showing you some of these crazy videos of like, if you don't like your wrinkles, for example, I mean, that's just topical, but I mean, like that, I saw that video he did half his face. And
my gosh, my friend Marty. No, we got to talk about that. Okay. So real quick, I don't know if you know the story on that. Marty is a veterinary researcher. All right. So the man, like me, super analytical. And he goes, well, so guys, they have a topical version. It's more concentrated. And they said, okay, this helps turn over skin cells faster. So you should be able to see a visible reduction in wrinkles, skin elasticity, whatever. So he goes, okay, prove it. He put it on half his face. Okay. And it's called Running 28 because in 28 days, you're supposed to be able to see the difference. So there's a picture of him a month into it. And like, it's so clear. The lines here, I mean, it's so clear which side he put it on. But then he was like, well, let's keep going. He did it for 3 months until finally his wife was like, Marty, honestly, it looks like you've had a stroke on one side. You need to start putting it on the other side. So it's evened out now, but it was like such a funny thing to watch because I'm like, what woman would do that? I don't know.
No. Not the face. Anything about the face.
On the arm, right? It helps with cellulite. So like maybe on one side of my body, not the other, we'll see. But yeah, holy cow.
It's so funny. Yeah, no, it's amazing. It does make a huge difference. But for people who are starting with that, and this is the mistake that I made, is take a before picture. Because when you're looking at yourself constantly, you don't see it.
Yeah. There's a picture of this woman. Yeah, she was using it and her son was buying it for her. Her name's Rosie. And she, after 7 weeks, she was like, look, stop buying it. Like, it's not doing anything. And he was like, Mom, look. and sent her a picture. And it was like, oh, like I wish I could show you all right now. Cause it's like, well, how could she not see the difference? But it's like, well, your hair grows and you don't notice it because you're looking at yourself every single day.
Yeah. Exactly. You don't see it change, but it's such a huge difference. And it's really amazing. But, like I said, with my boyfriend, that cut that he had,
oh my gosh,
it literally went away in days. And he didn't believe me when I was, peddling my ASEA.
I know. It's my boyfriend, the same thing. He's like, no way. He had like one of those skin tags, and I was like, well, just that's abnormal cells. I said, just rub it on. Like, it's not going to hurt.
Yeah, it's not
days later, the thing turned black, fell off. And he was like, and I said,
I love that. That is so funny. Well, we are running a little bit low on time. I want to make sure that we put up your information again. Is there anything in particular that you'd really love to share with the audience? Because I want to make sure that we have plenty of time.
Well, I want to tell you guys this. Look, you're not listening to this by accident. The conversation we're having, whatever you were meant to hear today, it's resonating for a reason. And if it's what we were just talking about with the redox, like if you were told you've got something permanent, like I was told, like, let me just tell you, there are options. Let's have a conversation. My passion is education. I want people to realize, look, there's things out there for you. Do your due diligence. Don't go to Google. Talk to the experts. I'm at the forefront of this. I've gotten to interview so many people about this. Like, I can get you the information you need to make a decision. But the other thing I would say is, and this is like, your thoughts are so powerful. And so don't second guess your intuition. Don't second guess what's coming in. Like, you know what you need. And I want to tell you to just keep accessing that. I didn't even mention this, but the book I wrote called Mind Control, it's an ebook. You guys can go grab it. If anything that I shared with you, if you want to go a little bit deeper on it, I talk about the sunglasses in there. I talk about that equation, because it's like, sometimes you have to soak into this stuff, and it's the repetition of it, because you have to deprogram your mind and put in the new program. You have to install it. And it's like, if you see people living a life that you're like, how do they do that? Or I want to feel that way. Or, you see this beautiful, vibrant woman on this show all the time. You're like, how is she doing that? I guarantee you, she has the same mind control techniques. Like, she has learned how to create her world internally and then bring it externally to all of you. And so, we're all connected in that, right? And I would say there's something within you that you've asked. You've asked for this conversation. So here it is. Don't be like me and ignore the silver platter answer, right? It's sitting right here.
Yeah.
Reach out.
No, I think that's so funny, because my friend, one of my oldest friends, I mean, we've known each other since middle school. So we're talking, maybe 10 or 11. And she sent me this meme the other day, and it still gets me. And it was something like, thank you for the sign, but I think I'll wait for a more signy sign. It's like, we all do that. It's like, it can literally be right there.
It's like, there's no coincidences in life. Like, it's just not a thing.
Well, that's cool. Now, can you make it happen again times infinity? I'm just like, come on.
That was me. That was me. And now I'm like, oh, the clock says 11:11. There's the sign. Like, you know what I mean? Like, now I'm like, signs all over the place. Like, I just got to wake up and look.
I know. And it's so funny. My boyfriend and I were talking about the reticular activating system, the brain, how when you focus on something or it's in your brain, you start noticing it over and over again. And that's why gratitude works so much. There's science behind it. But we were talking about how nobody rollerblades anymore. And then I am out in the sticks and it's nighttime and I see somebody rollerblading across the street with a reflector jacket on. And he's like, oh, that's the reticular activating system. I'm like, you just took all the magic out of that moment.
No, but it's so true, because it's like I bought a Jeep recently, okay? And now it's like I see Jeeps everywhere, but it's like, because I had been so into researching the Jeep, like my brain, we take in so much information. The reticular activator system is the one that siphons it and says important, not important, important, not important.
Exactly.
And so it's like, well, that's why what you focus on expands. Like, and as soon as you start to put your focus in one direction, all of a sudden it's going to let in all the things you weren't seeing before and go, oh, it's been there all the time. Like,
exactly. Yeah, it's always been there, but you didn't notice it. Like you said, your brain is just saying, no, not today.
Exactly. I have people that are like with the ASEA, it happens. They're like, wait, I was just at my friend's house and like, I think I saw that on their counter. And I'm like, it's been slowly popping its head. And it's like, when are you ready to receive the message? You know?
Exactly. No, I love that. I love that so much. So how do people get your book?
Yeah, absolutely. So on my website, brainbodyself.com, just go brainbodyself.com/ebook, literally EBOOK, and just put your email in, then you'll be able to download it and get it. And I am so grateful that I had the time to put that together. And it's like, I think that in life, a coach, a mentor, what do? They collapse time for you. Because all of us are here to learn. I truly believe that's why we're here. Yeah. And the lessons we're meant to learn are unique to each of us. But there are some things that a coach, a mentor can show you it's like they shine a light where you can't see. And to me, that's what that book is. It's to shine a light and say, hey, wait, pay attention. Because there's some communication happening here that you might be missing. And it's happening every single day. It's the trigger, the thing you're resisting that's persisting. Like that's the thing we're looking at. The obstacle's there for a reason. The antidote is inside of it. Yeah. Because you're supposed to become someone different. You're supposed to expand here. And so that book, it's my gift to help people that are on the path, behind me, going through what they're going through. And I want you to master your own mind, because it's truly all in your head. And when you can master your thoughts, like you become the creator of your world. And I want to live in a world where people are empowered, people are creating the life they want, and we're just living as that creative spirit that we truly are, and I think that this book hopefully can access that for you and open up doors for you.
I love that, Danielle. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you being here and sharing so much about your own story as well as your knowledge, because it really resonated with me. So I know I'm not the only one.
Well, thanks for having me on. It was such a pleasure. And yeah, guys, if something resonated with you, please, that's my cell phone. Reach out. I'm telling you, send me a text message. This is my passion. This is what I want to help with. So 443-454-6023, you get me. No robot, no nothing. Send a text and just say, hey, I saw you on the show. Would love to talk more. And I can send you information, can send you whatever it is that you need. And I look forward to connecting.
Amazing. Well, that is all the time that we have for today. Danielle, thank you so much for being on the show, as I mentioned before. And hopefully you'll be back again soon. Have a great night.
Have a good night, everybody.
And that is all the time that we have. We will be back on Thursday, so enjoy your week. Have a wonderful night. And if you're in Southern California like I am, stay cool, because it is so hot here. Oh my goodness, I am getting so tired of it. Come on, fall, come here. Anyway, until next time, have a good one, everyone.